Good evening and welcome to Friday Nite Mics on SportsNetUSA.net. Hey, I'm Ryan Osborn Jr. Well, not really. Ryan didn't make it today, but we've got a special guest with us. Of course, as we go around the table, it's Hector, Mark, Noah, Title IX, Corey Neyland, and that's sort of appropriate today when we say Title IX, Corey Neyland, because guys, we're going to be talking about, well, there's a big dance going on, and besides a big dance going on, there's a junior prom going on down the street. Something that maybe two of us at this table watch. One of us religiously, the other one that was dragged into it about, oh, I don't know, maybe about 18 years ago with the man to my left over here. Yeah, that's right, the big dance is going on, but when we talk about the big dance, we've got to talk about the junior prom, which is down the street. That's the women in the NCAA championship going on for basketball.
Wait. Before you start, junior prom? Which one is the junior prom?
The junior prom is the women because nobody watches it. The NCAA doesn't care about it. And the fans, well, let's be realistic on all levels, be it the little kid, the medium-sized children to my left and right, and the old people like you. Oh, we're the exception to the rule, Corey Neyland. But let's be realistic. Even the people on the air, Charles Barkley and everybody else, badmouths the women game, and it's not viewed the way it should be on the air right now.
Yeah, but it's still not be considered the junior prom. It's still the big dance. No matter if people watch it or people don't watch it, it's still the big dance, not the junior prom. So let's get off that. The big dance, college basketball for men and women. Same.
And if it's the big dance, well, the reason I call it the junior prom is because if it's the big dance, the men that go to the big dance, that go and ask everybody else to dance with them, get a fiscal reward at the end of the day. The women that go to their junior prom, what happens to them when they look for a dance partner? Well, they don't get hand a quarter to waltz with us or even do a little soft shoe. They're told you're happy to be there, and that's all it's about. And that's what it's going to be about today here on Friday Nite Mics on SportsNetUSA.net. The fiscal conversation about the big dance versus the junior prom as the women get absolutely
we're gonna stop
nothing.
that right now with the junior prom nonsense because that's how rhetoric gets in there and that's how it doesn't grow.
See, and this is why people will only talk about it but do nothing about it. Because if the man to my left were to be part of the NCAA, once again, that's what he would tell me. But at the end of the day, he would say to the people at the other side of the big dance, you bring the ribbon, you bring the punch, and if you can bake, since you're women, you can bring the cupcakes too, because we're not going to give you any money. Yeah, it's the big dance, but we don't really care. And that's what's going on with the NCAA when you look at the fiscal aspect of the game right now between the men and the women.
The fiscal aspect.
The fiscal aspect.
Still not the junior prom.
But that's how it gets treated.
Yeah, that's how it gets treated. But you can't terminalize that as the junior prom.
I mean, guys, let's be realistic. I brought these two up. Do you watch the women play?
To be honest with you, I didn't even know there was women's basketball. I know there's March Madness, but I never knew. Like, I tried figuring out myself, why isn't there like March Madness for women's basketball? I did not know they don't have that.
So, junior prom.
No.
Do you watch?
I've watched. Not junior prom.
Go ahead, Noah.
I'm with Corey. I don't like the title of junior prom, but I'm not a big fan of watching the women's tournament. I do watch the Final Four just to see, and the championship game I try and tune in just to see who wins, and so I can kind of keep up with the general knowledge of women's college sports. But I'm not a crazy fanatic about the tournament like I am for the men's side of things.
Why? Before we get into the fiscal aspect.
Well, yeah, that's a great question.
I think it's a lot harder to follow. I mean, even when you prepare to do the March Madness for the men's, it's hard to follow all 64 teams. Now you're going to ask me to follow another 64 college basketball teams that I know almost nothing about, because during the season they're less televised. They don't have players that are marketed as well as players like Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett and John Morant. So it's harder. You already don't know any of these players, and now to go and research, basically not even research, but just do the minimal research and to try and get to know all these 64 programs in the women's tournament, it's kind of a daunting task. And to be fair, it's just not as entertaining as basketball.
Okay, and here's the question. Well, it's not as exciting, even though they are the best basketball program by record in the NCAA.
History.
I think all in all, when it comes down to women playing sports, women they do a lot better than men's sports. For example, the women's U.S. soccer team do it way better than the men's U.S. soccer team when it comes down to sports. It just, to me personally, it saddens me that there's not that much influence or that much emphasis on, hey, we have women playing the sport too, not just men, but yet we all focus on the men aspect of it and not really focus and give the women the props that they need, and the fact that they're doing a lot better than
Okay,
us.
let me ask you a question, because this is a question Mr. Neyland and I always have when it comes to basketball. You bring up soccer. You're the soccer guy here. Is soccer just soccer, or do you look at it as being women's soccer and men's soccer?
No, to me, soccer is soccer. If you're a good athlete at it, doesn't matter you're male or female, you're good. But the way they're promoting, they're trying to keep it like, oh, this is men's, this is woman, when it's not really a difference. The only difference is you're male or female, but the sport is still a sport.
We say, let me go left. Is it men's basketball or women's basketball? Because he says soccer is soccer, but you've already said to me, well, there's women's basketball that nobody wants to really watch, and then there's men's basketball.
Basketball is the same sport no matter whether the women or the men play it. The style is different. Obviously, in a women's game, it's very less likely that a player will be able to dunk the ball. So there's a lot of that. Men's basketball is more of kind of the one-on-one. Let's put your best player against my best player and see who can score the most buckets and kind of that stuff. Where women's basketball is more passing and movement. But basketball is basketball. I see it as basketball. I just think the product into the general public is less exciting because there's no flash value in the dunks and the high-flying alley-oops and stuff like that.
And Mr. Neyland, you sit there and you listen to these two talk, and then you give me critical rhetoric back saying, don't call it the junior prom, because I got two people here that if we gave them free tickets, wouldn't go to, quote, the big dance for women. But if I gave them free tickets to, quote, the big dance for the men, they'd be standing in line just to get inside. Yes, there is a difference on the observation of the game, and there is a difference on the reward to the game. We're not talking trophy, we're talking fiscal reward to the programs. So where's the difference?
Who's denying that? Just because it's a different style does not make it junior, does not lessen the impact that it has. The only difference, well, you said the dunking. Yeah, there's not many dunks, but we've had a conversation years ago talking about women dunking. Yeah, it can be done, but it's simply not done at this time. I don't believe that women dunking, taking Noah's flashy thing, that if women dunk all the time, that's going to change that perception. It's still going to be the simple fact that it's a woman playing basketball. Now, you all called it the rhetoric of the junior prom. Just because it's different, just because people aren't watching the same level, just because people will take free tickets to the men and not the women, does not make it less. It just makes it, as we've all stated, it simply makes it different,
and
not
yet,
less.
And yet the NCAA really does view it at less. And guys, this is really where we look at it too, because they viewed it less because not until 2017 did the women at the big dance receive any financial reward for where they ended up on at the end of the day. As of 2017 on the men's side, from all the different conferences, $118 million has been rewarded to the men's side of basketball since 2017. Those numbers are from 2012 to 2017 from Forbes.com if you want to check it out to get the numbers right, broken down into each conference. The women in return have gotten nothing. Corey, and this comes down to the big argument, because total package, $1.8 billion is what's been paid out in those 5 years. Even more this year, between 2018 and 2019, the numbers have not been made public record. This is all about how much money I can make, how much money the programs. The women don't get, well, they're starting to, but let's be realistic. The women don't get anything, the men do. And the big argument is, because I brought it up as the two different rhetorics, the big dance and the junior prom, that's how they're getting treated. The big question is, hey, do they deserve anything? I mean, I can flip it on the one side and say, no athletic program deserves anything on the money it's being made, or they all deserve equal. So I'm going to Title IX. You're the big promoter of women's sports. That's why the nickname. But go ahead. Guys, I'm going to go to you. Then I'm going to go back to you because you brought up the women's soccer team. But I'm going to go to you first. You don't watch it. You don't really care about it. So when it comes down to the fiscal, I mean, the men, conferences, $118 million up to 2017. So we know it's a lot more now going into 2019. And in 2017, it's the first time the women got paid. I mean, you're a man's guy, so I guess you feel like, well, that's okay. Let them cook, let them clean. They don't deserve any money.
Don't take that.
I do not feel that way towards the women's basketball. Like I said, I do watch towards the end. And just to kind of reiterate the point about the dunks and basketball as a product, I think the women's basketball teams play the way basketball should be played, moving the ball around. I think if the youth watch women's basketball, they learn they understand the sport of basketball better and what it is to be a teammate instead of watching all these one-on-one players and try and do it themselves. But back to the fiscal argument, I was reading that a lot of these women basketball programs, they don't make money. They don't actually provide revenue for their college. Schools like UConn, which has probably been the best women's college basketball program in the past 10-15 years, they don't actually break a profit, excuse me. They don't bring in profit to the college or to the program. They actually spend more on, the coaching and the buses and transportation than they actually bring in. So how are you going to ask all these 64 programs to come in and bring money when not even the top programs in the country can bring in much money for the school or the athletic program?
Well, that's really interesting you bring that up, Noah, because when UConn ended up winning their championships and beat UCLA's record, now they had over 100 consecutive wins, UCLA with only 88, so they beat it substantially. Well, I'm going to let you know something, Noah, that UConn ended up getting $29.5 million in donations to the university from alumni and everybody else. That the basketball program, that year alone, women, not men, women, brought $119 million into the University of Connecticut just for that, not from the TV revenue or not. So when somebody says to me they don't make any money for their program, well, let's put it this way. UConn, not even getting paid by the NCAA, brought in $119 million. I don't think any football program or baseball program or ice hockey program at UConn brought in close to that, but the women did. So there's no comparison. When you say that, I don't know. I don't think there's truth or validity in that statement.
I mean, I don't know what to say. Me personally.
Well, let's just get down on an area that you know, because we'll keep it simple.
Yeah.
You talked about soccer. I'm gonna let him have a little slider. You talked about soccer. Okay. You talked about how great the women's team is doing. Corey Neyland, the women's team do not get the same benefits in soccer that the men's team do. The women only get paid when they play on the soccer team. The men get paid. If you're on the team right now and you're on the team right now, you get paid for being on the team, sitting here on Friday Night Mics this evening. If Gabby Neyland was on the women's team right now, they'd say, excuse me, why are you with your husband? Because the only way you're going to get paid, young lady, is if you're on the field with us. So let's just transition that. We're talking about women's sports. I guess that must be fair because you're a big soccer fan.
No, honestly, I don't think that's fair at all. I think when it comes down to, like I mentioned earlier, when it comes down to women playing any type of sport, I don't think it's fair. The way they pay them, the way it's promoted, I don't think they do it fairly when it comes to women and men. For example, the World Cup. There's a World Cup that everybody comes and watches for soccer. Then there's a Women's World Cup, which I never knew about till a couple years ago, that, there's a Women's Soccer World Cup. I didn't even know. No one, it's not promoted, it's not, really brought out to the public, that no one watches it. I personally think they're not. Women athletes are not fairly treated when it comes down to them playing their sport.
And,
no matter what.
And you talk about not fairly treated. It's all due to revenue created by television and how you're able to market it and promote and televise your games. Yeah, women aren't gonna. A big thing is women fans don't watch women's basketball. That's part of the reason why it's not fiscally mature as the men's side of the game. However, it's still a growing sport. The last 2 years, television-wise, you've seen the ratings go up more and more. You're not going to have this skyrocketing effect next year. It's going to be something that's gradual, a lot like soccer. I caught you guys' show the other couple of weeks ago about soccer and how it's still continuing to grow. Soccer has been growing for the last 50 years as the next sport to take over, and that's in the United States. Yes, it's worldwide and it's global, but every year for the past 50 years, soccer is going to be the sport that takes off. And it still hasn't taken off. But it still gets more notoriety on the men's side. Same thing with basketball. Women's basketball, and part of the problem is it's based on financials. It's a college sport. You know that we've had long conversations about how I feel about college sports, about it needs to be broken down equally. I don't care how much revenue a men's program brings in or a women's program brings in. If you bring in revenue that much, it's broken down into the whole athletic program.
Well, let's go to
Okay.
no. What? Because here's Corey. He wants to give a piece of the pie to everybody.
Yes, because
everybody's there, and you
what's college for? What is college for?
But I'm gonna let Noah
give
answer
everyone
this
equal
because.
opportunity,
But
correct?
I'm gonna let Noah answer this because Noah's the one that brought up the aspect the women don't make any money, and you know I'm not.
That's what I read.
Yeah, but
Yes.
that's what you can feel too. I mean, if that's what you feel, and you're a college student, we're old guys. So I'm gonna look at you point blank because you're looking at me saying, hey, if you don't bring in the bread, which he's saying. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't bring in the bread. Everybody should get a slice anyway.
Yes.
I'm going to look at you. I mean, you're a former athlete that played collegiate. Is that fair? Is that fair to you as a baseball player that I take money away from you because Corey's got a woman's program going on and they don't bring anything? As a matter of fact, they're taking half your money because of Title IX. Is that fair?
I think it is fair. I think, like you said, MLS and just all these women's sports, whether it's women's soccer, women's softball, women's basketball, they need to be gradually grown. It's a process, and I think part of that process is taking a little bit from these other programs to help grow it so that that softball program, that women's basketball program, it could get eventually to the, not to the level of, but closer and closer to the level. And I think taking part of that financial, the fiscal reward that's seen from the men's basketball tournament, I think taking some of that and rewarding it towards the women's and some other sports, I think that helps gradually grow their program. To where
So I'm supposed to take that $118 million that's given to all the men's programs right now through all the conferences, and I'm supposed to bleed it out to the swimming program and the diving program, especially, or maybe I ought to give it to the dance team on the women's side
Or the
because they don't
lacrosse.
generate anything. I mean, he
Or-
wants to give away the world. You think it's fair for the women to do it, and then none of you are sitting here and thinking about the fiscal responsibility back that they pay. I got three
Hold it
guys
there.
right here who
Hold it
give
right there.
everything.
Now you say fiscal responsibility. What is your responsibility as an institution?
My fiscal responsibility, my institutional responsibility is to educate people. There is no statute that says I have to supply sports to your institution because not every NCAA Division
It's
I
not
school
about morals, it's not about ethics,
offers.
it's not
Wait a
about-
minute.
it's not-
Wait a minute.
No, they don't.
Don't tell
No,
me
they don't.
moral. Don't
I'm
tell
just
me
saying,
morals.
I'm just saying. So moral and ethics have nothing to do with.
Where do you get
fiscally.
morals and ethics
With-
brought into this?
If you want to, if your job is to educate,
It's to educate,
It's
not to play
educate.
sports.
Not to play sports.
No, but a sport is
And
part
that's
of that
and
education.
that's where that's wrong too, because education in sports is part of your education.
No, that's because you're an athlete and you feel
no,
that
no,
way.
no, that's not.
Well,
why I
how
feel
come
that
the
way.
theater program doesn't get as? How come your theatrical and music
I'm just
programs
saying.
don't get as much as sports programs? How come, if you feel that way? How come they don't get the equal share of revenue?
When we have that conversation, when theater is in the sports and athletic department, then yeah, they'll get that equal
no.
revenue. We're talking about the athletic program. Theater, yeah, we can have a whole discussion about theater and why they don't get all the money that they deserve.
Well, no, you brought up
But-
equality and morality, so
Yeah,
you brought it
and
up. So tabbed with education.
Okay, tabbed with
with education. So it goes across the board.
What-
You don't get to pick and choose.
What is the theater program part of?
What you don't get to pick and choose and say, well, this program doesn't get any part of the money and that program doesn't get
So-
any part of the money, because you want it to go to everybody.
In the
He does.
department. When we're
Why?
talking
Because
strictly athletics,
They're not. What are they contributing?
They're what are they contributing?
What are they contributing?
They're
What does the
they're-
water?
they're-
What
they're
does the
contributing
water polo
confidence.
contribute?
They're contributing confidence. They're contributing another way to make a living. They're contributing the better effect of people in society. Mark, athletics is just important as theater, just important as political science.
And to add to that, any team that goes anywhere on the road, they're essentially advertisement. I mean, I was a student at Cal State Sacramento. You see a team, you know, like Abilene Christian play there, all of a sudden you know about a new college that you had no idea before.
So you advertised.
Up-
Don't come to the school because our athletic program is bad because you couldn't win.
No, but you understand.
No, you're
think about
advertising that I didn't know about this school, and this is another opportunity for me to explore.
Think about a college match between water polo teams, and think about a high school player that just happens to be in that attendance. They now know 2 college programs, and they can be drawn to either one of those programs based on what they viewed that day.
Oh,
So
let's be. Come on, guys.
Every
Come on,
athlete,
guys.
And you know-
every
and you know
athlete
what,
is an advertisement for the college.
And you know,
Do
and
you
know,
look
guys,
around the table to see how everybody's dressed here?
And Mark is
You look at this. Casual. Just woke up. You're lucky I'm here.
yes.
And we're going to go to those 3 schools? No, you're going to go to sportsnetusa.net that looks nice, that's got more money, their facilities is much better,
And it's-
their
and no,
educational program could be the best and it doesn't matter.
Antiquated is sports.
You know?
Antiquated. Okay.
And it doesn't matter.
But you do mirror and hearken what I forgot his name, Emmerich, who used to run the NCAA and the athletics. Jason McIntyre wrote an opinion piece a couple years ago about, in the direct quote, women's basketball loses $14 million by itself. Once you get done splitting up the money, there isn't much left. We can't tell someone how much to pay a coach. We can't tell them how to use the money they get. That's reflecting on what you're saying. You can't tell them how to use their money. But the NCAA needs to tell these institutions where to spend their money. Because if we have this program that women's basketball is not making as much money as it should. Or I shouldn't say even should, as it is. But that doesn't mean that it still shouldn't be, it should be left out. It shouldn't be left out. Now, the NCAA, there was a thing called the Association for Intercollegiate Athletics for Women back in 1971. It ran for about 10 years. That promoted women's sports to a degree. It was making money back then. It was growing in popularity. It had network deals on regular TV, not just a network deal on the 4-letter. Okay, it was growing. But when you see something making money, it's kind of like a burger chain. You see them making money, so you want to expand. The NCAA comes in and takes over that institution because they see the number of profit that they can have. But yet, it just goes into a big conglomerate, and the food, if you're talking about a burger joint, the food becomes lessened with more franchises. The product becomes lessened with more. And the NCAA has really done this to themselves when we have topics like this.
Well, one product that's never become lessened, and that's especially when you look to go shopping for it. You're looking for that brand new Toyota. Well, the best place to go is Miller Toyota of Anaheim. Located at Euclid in the 91, they're a proud sponsor here at Friday Night Mics on Sportsnet, USA.net. Hector, Noah, Corey, three that really don't know what's going on when it comes to sports. Of course, Ryan Osborn and the Buddha of Babel will straighten you out here. Corey Neyland talks about the burger chain and how. And no, I'm gonna go back to. I'm gonna take away from you a little, but I'm gonna go back to Noah and Hector. I mean, I got a guy to my right keeps telling me that women ought to get their fair share, but doesn't tell me how. So we're gonna have to talk about that in a second. And you are sitting there and saying, well, this is what it does. It engages the university, and yeah, guess what? You're the fan that doesn't go and watch it. You won't know about that next school out there because you know why? You didn't show up for the event. You're sitting there and telling me, oh, this is why the women should get more money, Mark. This should be because you're going to go to that water polo tournament. When's the last time you went to a women's event and watched women's athletics?
It was in December, actually, at a Fullerton College women's basketball game. And I watched and had the chance to broadcast multiple opportunities at the Sac State women's basketball program. And I would
Stop. Not broadcasting.
Yeah, thank you. I was waiting for somebody to bring that up and say, that is what Mark asked you. When did you go out either because it was free or you went out and spent your $3 to $12 for a ticket to see a women's event?
This December to watch Fullerton College women's basketball game.
Not for an assignment either.
No, it wasn't for assignment, just strictly because I wanted to. I interviewed a player and I was like, you know what, I should probably go watch them play.
That doesn't count.
No,
you didn't interview the same day.
No, it was the same day. No, it was.
Hey, look
a
at him.
separate-
There you go.
Look at him go. Did you go with me?
Yes, and the problem is you haven't been back.
I have not.
You have not been
And
back.
why?
You have not
And
been
why?
back.
And this is the thing, because it's going to go tied back into the fiscal, Corey. I'm listening to you talking about share the pie. I'm listening to you that say, we need to be fair. I didn't even know the program existed, but we need to be fair. Why don't you go back?
I choose not to. And just like I choose not to, I haven't been to any men's basketball game either, outside of broadcasting. I haven't gone to watch any Fullerton College men's basketball games or any other college or any other NBA game for that matter. I think personally I just haven't been able to watch or enjoy that much basketball this year. So that's just personally I choose not to.
But that's you. And if there's 1,000 Noahs out there, that means there's 1,000 people not going to that game. That means that nobody's walking in to see the women. You're sitting there saying, split the pie. What pie? There ain't nobody showing up. Why do I do it? Because Gabby can go out swimming all by herself, win a trophy, turn around and hold it up to the empty stands and said, oh, don't forget, anybody who's here, come to my school. It doesn't work for you because you don't show up. It doesn't work for you because you didn't even know there was a swimming meet going on. And it doesn't work for you because there went $10 and there went $10 and you want to share my money because I get people to show up all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
No,
You're stealing from me, man. You're stealing from me.
You may not think it's fair, but life ain't fair. Just because it's not important to you doesn't mean it's not important to the person that's doing it. It doesn't matter. We're talking about women's basketball.
College
right
is
now.
a business. College is a business.
And
if your burger stand don't make no
and
money,
college is a
you
business.
close it. You close it.
And that's a shame because
You
if
close
it's strictly a business, then when are you going to start paying these athletes?
That's a whole different show.
If it's a business, you have to pay the athletes. You have to pay the theater people. You have to pay the people that bring revenue and television contracts. Even though it doesn't make as much money as the men, it still makes money for you. Okay? That's the bottom line. It still makes money for you. Yeah, you say $14 million is lost by women's basketball. Yeah, overall.
Out of all the programs, out of all the NCAA programs,
still bringing in money.
it's losing you money. Out of all the women's basketball programs in the nation, last year only 5 made money. Only 5 made money.
Are all 5 of the men's? Are all the men's programs making?
I would say a higher percentage
no,
of
no,
the
no,
men's
no,
program.
no.
But are all of them?
Are all?
More than 5.
Are all?
More than 5.
Doesn't
Are
matter.
all
More
football
than
programs
5.
making money?
Huh?
Are all football programs making money? There's a lot of football programs, even
Does-
big in the Power 5
Well,
conferences.
I mean, if we're actually going to come down to it, because you talked about how much money gets spent and everything else, and you guys want to share all the money, and you want to give all the money away. At the end of the day, if I'm sharing with all of you guys,
To the left.
if I'm sharing with all you guys, then what happens?
No, you're gonna go past this building to the left.
And once again, we're here on Friday Night. Mike's got a program going on. Corey Neyland, who is actually the greeter
It's
for the
late.
basketball program here at
It's late, y'all.
sports@usa.net.
Okay, I'm tired.
Hey guys, I tell you what, you guys want to share all the money. Over here to the left, over here to the right, over here who always wants to take everybody else's money. What happens at the end of the day? My program's not going to make any money for the simple reason you're taking my money. Football program ain't making any money because I take in $100 million. I don't get to spend it on myself. I got to give him $20 million. I got to give you $40 million. And the soccer program, that growing sport in the United States, it got to get $30 million. Guys, if you add up those numbers, now my $100 million that I spend because I gave you all my money, no, we're not making any money. We're in the hole because of you 3.
And that's the
women,
and that's
sports.
the necessary sacrifice that people have to make to uplift all peoples.
So in other words, you guys are saying to me, if a business doesn't make money, we might as well just keep it open and lose all the time because, hey, everybody needs a job, so we're going to pay them even though they're not doing well enough to make any money. That's not fiscally responsible, nor is it smart. And you 3 would be business losers if you ran your own businesses and be out on the street and have to come work for me because I'm making money and you are not. Is that what you're telling me?
Luckily, I can separate business from other entities.
College is business. Let's be right down to it. I'm going to go back to my soccer boy over here that just found out that women actually play soccer.
No, I mean, I knew they played. I didn't know there was a World Cup. That's what I'm trying to say. But
you're telling me that we ought to share money. Wait a minute.
Okay, no, I'm saying we gotta share it because
That's okay. You didn't know who was paying for that.
No, the thing with this is the fact that okay, we have women's sports.
Remember, you're married. You better defend this well.
We have women's sports, and we like we said, we're trying to get a following going. The women's sport programs, all of them are still growing. They're still like soccer. It's still a sport. I mean, that's developing. Women's sports are still developing. And like we said, men watch sports. Men watch men's sports. Women also watch sports. But if you look at it, there's not a lot of women that watch women's sports. A lot of them go and they watch men's basketball, men's soccer, men's football. They don't necessarily, the majority of them don't necessarily follow women's sports.
Why?
And I guess it all comes down to the whole cultural, like, hey,
societal pressure.
yeah, exactly, societal
norms.
pressure. Like, it's like, oh, we're all watching this sport. We're all doing this. It's like, okay, we're following that, but no one's really bringing, oh, let's watch women's basketball. Let's watch women's soccer.
So you're defending my position, saying nobody shows up. So tell me why they should get equal pay. That's what you're just saying. Nobody shows up.
I'm saying it has to be equally.
No, I don't want to hear your opinion. I want to hear what he has to say. I don't want to hear what he has to say.
No, he's not lying. It's true. Women do win. Like, when it comes down to sports, women are better than men. In lots of ways, women are better than men in sports. But we don't.
I was going to say, okay, so there's a match play golf tournament going on right now. Who's winning? Who's winning? There's a match play golf tournament. It's men. Who's winning?
Golf?
Yeah, who's winning?
I don't know.
Listen to the answer.
Watch golf.
Golf?
I don't
That's what
watch
I mean.
golf.
You guys can tell me that women's sports.
I can't
Somebody
pronounce
wins,
that.
but if nobody's there, who cares? Except the participants. That's the only people that care who win. And we're talking about a business. I got a guy who's saying the women ought to get supported in women's soccer. Doesn't go. I got a guy that says you ought to support all women's athletes. Finally went to a Fullerton College game, but hasn't been back. I've got a gentleman, Title IX, sitting over here in the left saying, let's split the pie. But he doesn't even know how he's going to buy any baked goods to bake it. Guys, I need some justification for spending all this money. No, I don't think so. What's the deal? I don't get it. We sit here, we're talking about it right now. There's no fiscal reward for the sport.
So the fact that a
And that's-
woman can win and play better than men is not enough justification?
And that's the problem. Yeah, fiscal. You're talking about fiscal. Women's sports are not making as much money as the men. Women's sports is still growing. At the college, is
I got to put that check there
is-
for me.
is
No money. Go
does
ahead.
not. No, see, that's the thing. You said no money. It doesn't make as much money.
If you don't make the
Now-
money to cover it, you're losing money, therefore you're not making money. You can't
So-
pay the bills, you ain't making money.
Then we should just disband sports at the collegiate level because
I didn't
not
say
all
that.
schools make money.
I didn't say that.
So the schools that aren't
If the
making
men's
money.
side-
So
if
let me
the-
let me put it this way. On the men's side, you talk about fiscal responsibility. So
Okay, wait a minute. The men's side of sports, it's men's athletics, is what it's called. It's men's athletics. So if my male athletic department as a whole, in a budget, spends $118 million on my sports from top to bottom, and I make $118 million from my sports, even if it's all off of football, from top to bottom, I'm covered. I can have water polo, I can have ping pong, because it's all covered. If you can't pay for your sports on your side of the ledger,
okay.
why are you coming into my household telling me I got to give you money?
So we're going to have a separation in the athletic departments for men and women, and that marketing for the women is going to have to form their own organization to make money, because it was proven before that when they had the women's organization, the AIAW, it was making money.
It was making
It
money,
was
and then all of a sudden it quit making money.
It quit making money because
The
a
product wasn't as good?
No, because a bigger institution came in and that was threatening their product. So that's why they
So
gobbled
what,
them
now
up.
you're
So
telling
so
now you're
that's
telling
the
me the
business.
women didn't have enough strength
So-
just to keep their own organization.
Oh no, they had enough strength. It's just gobbled up. See, there's a big thing when you talk about business, and my business goes out of business. Yeah, it could be for faulty management. It could be for other things. It could
First
be.
one was right.
It could be simply because there's a bigger institution or a bigger company coming in and take that away. Yeah, that happens. But when that institution comes and takes that away, they have a responsibility to still keep that afloat. And yeah, the women's side is growing in ratings, but that revenue's still not there. So you have to take a look at how are we going to grow this? Are we going to keep these, let's say the women's college basketball tournament, are we going to keep these in these facilities that are so enormous, like the Alamo Dome, like big arenas and big venues? Are you going to keep that there, or are you going to make it a little bit smaller, scale it back just a little bit to promote your sport? When you see a full stands, full house, packed, that's better than what you see down the street than what we just saw on the men's side and the men's conference tournaments that nobody's there. So if you streamline, then you come out ahead.
If you streamline and you cut it back just for show, then
Not
just for show. Just for show.
You streamline.
We have no idea.
because
We have
you-
no idea. We have no idea what the NCAA gets as for going into them. Because if you look at the men's side and the revenue that the men's side create, not only
$1.8 billion.
wait a minute, we're not only talking that. The last 3 cities that have held the Final Four have gotten a minimum of outside income of $28 million brought into their communities. So therefore, there has not been a deduction of how it's happened. There has been an increase in those things. If the women can't draw, if the women can't, if the women can't draw,
Did you get the totals for the women's?
if the
And
if
how
the
much was
women
that?
can't draw,
And how much was that?
it was 2.5 million.
So that was
that means people aren't showing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what.
$2.5 million of outside income
That's
coming
into the
2.5?
community. Into the community. That means it doesn't matter what size the venue is.
So that's
people ain't showing.
So $2.5 million into the community is $2.5 million.
28 million compared to 2.5 million. I know you went to
That's
Cal
still
State
2.5
Fullerton.
more million that you didn't have the city and the community didn't
You
have
mean you
before.
guys did math up at Sacramento? Because I know Cal State Fullerton
Yeah,
can't figure this
28
one
million
out.
more than 2.5.
No,
but
but
2.5.
If I had so much money
But let me
before,
take it to
and I got
and it's more
2.5 more
opportunity.
million,
But let me
It's
take-
more opportunity.
that's still a profit.
Let me take it to Noah, because I mean Noah's sitting as an outsider. You played baseball, you played football. You're going to tell me that none of the guys that sat in those locker rooms, that didn't get the proper equipment, that didn't have the proper facilities, and looked over at the softball field or looked over at the field hockey field that was immaculate, ever resented those other athletes for getting what they got?
Not at all. No, not on my teams, not in my experience, no.
And you still don't go to watch the women, so that's why the women aren't going to make any money. I mean, Corey's sitting here arguing with me, guys, that, hey, it doesn't matter if they don't make any money. Oh, they brought in $2.8 million. That's great, but they're still not really bringing anything into the organization. And if you reduce, Corey says, oh, if you reduce the size of the gyms that they play at, that's going to create a better presence. Still doesn't bring in any more money to the city.
So what about rings? What about championships? Those don't matter at all. I'll take it to you. Mark always says rings are things. Yeah, if you don't have a ring, it doesn't matter. Why does Kim Mulkey make less money than John Beeline?
I don't know why.
I don't. I'm asking you a question. She's got 2 championships. He's got none. Why is that? Why does she make less money?
Because she's with an organization that she comes and plays with a sport that nobody wishes to watch. So that's why.
So I'm going to take that. So your other arguments about rings and thing, that really doesn't matter. It's just because if you bring in that revenue and you're simply...
Because that's what we're talking about
Okay.
right now. We're talking about revenue. We're not talking about personal pride and who's the best at it. We're talking about who makes the most.
And
that's what we're talking about.
And that's the problem.
That's
when we
what
come
we're
with
talking
fiscal
about. It's talking
when we
about
talk
who
about
make the most.
fiscal. Yeah.
He talked about, okay, now I get to go over to here because you're going to throw that at me because I'm going to get you two involved somehow to go crazy in this. We go over to soccer. Who's won more World Cups, men or the women?
Women.
Right? Women have won more. How come more people watch the men than they do the women?
Just because of the way it's promoted.
Oh, that's the only reason?
Because I'm telling you, that's the way
Yes.
it's been promoted. The way it's promoted to everybody in the world, that's why everybody watches it.
I mean, look at men's sports in general compared to women's sports. No matter what sport you go to, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, the Major League Baseball, they all had 50 to 60 year advantages of being marketed first as the only thing to watch. Then along came the WNBA, and obviously they're 50 years behind just the NBA in general. NCAA men's basketball has been going on long before the NCAA women's. So I think when Corey and Hector says it's a process, it truly is.
Wait a minute.
Because it's a much younger sport.
Yeah.
It's a much younger organization that maybe, hey, in that same amount of time that where the men's are right now,
I'm gonna get a fact check here. When did you say the NCAA women's basketball tournament started? You told me out in the parking lot.
Back in what 19? No.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was like 18.
No, 19.
Oh, was it 19? Oh my God, I forgot already.
You
Back
go
in
ahead.
1904, 1906, I don't remember.
1982.
There you go, 1982.
And when did the men's Final Four start? Big dance? You're old enough. You probably watched it. Gabby knows, but she's not on the air, so we're going to ask you. When did you first start watching it?
1940 something.
1948.
Yeah.
1948 is when it started. So guys, we're not talking about that much year.
that's a 40-year
difference.
gap.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
I mean, look at
40-year
the
gap.
They had a 40-year head
And look at the
start.
technology that has enhanced us to watch the games, be it online, streaming, over the air. It has done that, so that's what's promoted the game, not because the game. 1948, people weren't glued to the TV watching the NCAA because there was no ESPN.
Because
there were no 4 major
Mark.
networks, and nobody was fighting to put it on the air. Please, it wasn't a big thing till the NCAA got involved.
But the NIT was. the NIT was a huge thing.
It was not.
Yes,
I was around back then, dude.
Yeah.
I was around before you. There was not a major television production.
No, it was not a major television
and so there
production.
were not. It was a
major
regional.
radio production.
It was
Let me put it
a
this way.
regional.
When
Well, I'll
Babe,
tell you
when
what,
Babe
how
Ruth
he
was playing
forgets.
baseball, was there a major television production?
When what?
Babe Ruth was playing?
No, it was the only sport in town, friend.
So
What
there
else was out there?
So there was no TV back then.
What other sport was out there? What other sport was out there
What?
competing with it?
Basketball was out there.
Oh, please.
Football was out there.
Please. Football did not become a popular sport nationally till it hit national television,
And you're talking
and that's a
about,
proven
and we're talking
statement.
about a game, so 40 years is enough time to catch up.
What I'm saying is, if you've got a great product, yeah. What do you see products spring up overnight?
No,
Did
probably,
it take
but you know
40
what?
years
Exactly.
for
Just
Facebook? Did you
because-
see
No,
40 years
wait,
for
wait.
Facebook?
Go ahead.
Exactly what
Go
he said. It didn't spring up overnight. Women's basketball is not springing up
Wait a
overnight.
minute.
It's
Facebook
growing.
broke up overnight, didn't it?
That's
Facebook came out of anywhere.
Wait,
That is
don't
not a
say-
sport.
No, we're
no,
talking
no.
business. Guys, we're going to get back down
Okay,
to
so back to
it's
business.
all about paper. It's all about money.
Okay, Mark.
These guys.
Guys, do great businesses go out of business?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does great products, do you have a great product? Do those businesses go out?
That's a great
have-
general
in order to get-
statement, isn't it? Hey, does something disappear? Name one. Name one. What went out of business? That great business. Come on, guys. If you're going to make a general statement, give me.
Okay.
You
Disney.
brought it up.
No, Disney.
Disney's
No,
not.
no.
Whoa. Wait a
Oh
minute.
no! When it first started, Disney went bankrupt so many times. Then it grew.
Did they go out of business?
Great product.
Did they put up the sign out of business? Don't show up.
Blockbuster.
Ask him, huh?
Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a great product. Where else can you go to rent
Blockbuster
videos?
still exists.
It does?
Yes, it does. Hate to tell you, it's over in the Orient. It's huge in the Orient. It
Oh.
still exists over there.
Should have said great business in America.
Great business.
No,
Great business in America.
Already hit that. This is Friday Night Mics, and if you're talking about a great business, one of the best businesses here in Southern California, Orange County, you need to go out and buy that Toyota. Miller Toyota of Anaheim. That's right. New and used Toyotas, I tell you, the selection is outrageous, and it's a lot better than what you're getting at this table
So-
right now.
so
So
when you-
Miller Toyota of Anaheim, located in Euclid in the 91. They're a proud sponsor of high school sports, community college sports, and most of all, education.
So it's all that matters is the money, and that's what Mark is going to tell you. All that matters. It doesn't matter if the product is not good or not. It's just if they bring in that revenue, that's all that matters, and that's part of the problem we have because women's sports don't make as much money. Because we've sat around and watched this basketball tournament on the men's side as well, and they're putting out not great product. But still, it makes that money, so that's the bottom line. I can't argue with that money's the bottom line. I'm arguing that the fiscal impact is growing on the women's side. It's not there yet. It will be eventually, but it's simply not there yet. But that doesn't mean it should go without.
Elite Eight, name one team in the women's tournament.
Notre Dame.
Is that a question or a statement?
Notre Dame. Statement. UConn. I can name you a few more if you'd like.
You should
go ahead.
You should have asked him who's playing.
Baylor. I
I'm
know
giving
Notre
him
Dame.
a break.
No, who's
UConn.
playing against each other.
I'm giving him a break. I'm giving him a break. Because if I'd have looked at him and asked him, he'd have said, the tournament's going on? And so,
I was going to actually ask you.
go ahead.
We'll get into that later about who's actually going to win. Because I took a couple notes and I was hoping somebody agreed with me. But go ahead.
No, that's okay. And I'm going to go back to you because your whole emphasis, and I got two young men here that are both telling me that women's sports should be equal and everything else. So I'm going to give you, you're telling me it's not marketed right. You're telling me that people want to go. So I'm going to give you guys, before we come to the end of this program, because I've dominated it and basically have won the entire discussion with these three. What would you do to improve women's sports? How would you get people to go out? And then what would you give women in return?
Me personally, I would promote it a lot more. I would start off with promoting it within my family, start watching it more. Because me personally, I don't watch it. I don't watch it. But in order for it to develop, I have to start watching it myself. If I'm going to back it up, yeah, I have to start watching it myself. It all starts with me. So I would watch it more. I would promote it more. And I would give women, like, exactly what they deserve because of the sports they play.
Okay, so here's my question to you, and I'm very serious
And
on this, and I know we're going to laugh at it. You paid $600 for an opening game, no, for a baseball, for a baseball. Would you pay $600 to go watch an opening season soccer game for women?
Sure. I'd pay it.
You know, if your husband said that, next time the women are playing, I'm going to look at your wife right now. You want to go to a women's game? If the tickets are $600 a piece, you'll buy the tickets. I just got you there. I'm going over here now. Look at his stuff. Look at his stuff. I'm going to go over here now. How come you don't go to more games and you're sitting here telling me, hey, it should be equal, it's going to brag to your university? What are you going to do? You're lucky if you go to 2 women's games in a year.
I think it needs to be marketed differently. I agree with Hector, it needs to be marketed more, but it needs to be marketed differently. I was listening to a podcast, I was talking about the WNBA and how they're struggling to they're kind of piggybacking off the NBA, where instead if they decided to remarket themselves, instead of the WNBA, because the W in front of the NBA makes you think it's a lesser than product, and I think that's the same for the NCAA women's tournament, right? It's NCAA W. So it makes you already think that it's a lesser product. If you go with a different name, a different organization, and you market it differently, and you still market it more, like Hector is saying, I think you can have some success. And again, it's a process. It's not, you're not going to see in the first 20 years it, make a huge amount of revenue, but in the 30, 40, the long run, I think you can if you separate yourself from the NCAA men's, or if you separate yourself from the NBA. I think you have a better shot at it, because already people are thinking it's a lesser product because you attach women's to it.
And I'm going to go back to the 2 young guys here. I'm going to leave you out of this for just a second. I'm going to go back to 2 young guys because it's real interesting. You just made a statement to me. It's the WNBA, and because there's a W in it, it's a lesser product.
That's how people view it. The majority of the public will see the W before the NBA, and they're going to think that's a lesser product.
How do you, though? I mean, and I'm real serious on this one, because that's a real interesting statement. Because you're saying to me, because the term women is attached to it. How do we get rid of that? Do you guys feel that way when you look at the Olympics? Oh, the women's Olympics and what the women's events are lesser events than the men's?
No, but I think a general...
Both of you can chime in here.
Yeah,
I think just the general public do, and that just has a lot to do with society. And for so long, it was just men who did sports, right? And now we're starting to. Like everything's a process. It's truly a long process. Like, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it is. And I don't know, for society as a whole to not view it as, oh, a woman, it's a lesser product because a woman is playing it. I think that's just we still have a long way to go as a society in general, as a fan.
I think just society itself is slowly developing and changing it, like you said, because back then it was just men. Everything was men. Men worked, men did this, men played sports. Now it's men and women are doing the same thing. Men and women are playing sports. Men and women are working, and the mentality is changing, and that's the big difference. The more it grows, the more the mentality changes with society, the more it's going to develop.
Before we get to the end here, I don't know how much time we got left on our show here.
7.
We only got about 7 to 8 minutes left here. So, I mean, of course, everybody's going to sit around the table and say, listen to the old guy putting out sports. Of course, one of the things we like to do is take different points of view, because there's people out there that see different points of views when we talk about this subject. Corey, I'm going to go back to you, because you're not going to be here every week being with Ryan, Hector, or Noah sitting here at the table. We've talked about sports in general. We do call Corey Title IX because of his love for the women's sports out here. But you've listened to 2 young guys, and I mean the constant theme here is not sport. The constant theme here is women. And I mean, they keep telling me it's got to change, but yet I've got youth and youth to the left and right of me, and aged sitting in the middle. And I'm sitting here going, when, guys? I don't think I'm going to be alive long enough to ever see the change happen.
Yeah, I'm not going to be alive to see that change happen. Not going to be alive to see soccer become the greatest sport that people keep telling in the last 50 years in America. That's going to happen. It's going to happen because, yeah, we can talk about it, but these athletes are doing it. Change will happen. That fiscal impact that they're having. Yeah, it's not the fiscal impact that the men are having on that level, because that's not where we're at right now in society. Women don't make equal money on the dollar the same as their male counterparts. So you're not going to have that at the college level yet. But just because you don't make that money fiscally, the impact in women's sports go beyond that fiscal. Okay, goes beyond the dollar. It's making money. It is growing. The last 2 years have seen the ratings has risen in the women's college basketball viewership. The monetary figures are still growing in that. Yeah, the men split the $1.8 billion, and let's say 14 million of it goes to the Pac-12. That goes to that program. Yeah, you know me. Life ain't fair. So I don't mind giving up money and taking money from there and putting money to other programs in this particular case. I don't mind doing that because that just grows your institution. And fiscally, yeah, you're going to say fiscally it doesn't help this program, but if you're just concentrated on the one program, as some people wanted to do before in college football, they wanted to take the Big Five, Power Five conferences and let them make their own conference. You're not going to do that because the NCAA wants their money. They need their share. That's a whole nother story. So the AIWA was equal to the men's side in the 70s, especially with the advent of Title IX in the 70s with these tournaments. Not lesser, but equal. And when that's taken away, that sets it back, and sometimes it takes more than 10, 20 years to get back up.
Before we go off the air, any parting shots for those watching and listening to us, and what do you think women's sports need to do?
I think, just to go back to where you said it's a business, if you ask any business owner, especially a small business owner, they're going to have some failures before they hit their success. You're going to have 2-3 years where you lose profit. There's actually a really good restaurant that I go to that's down the street from my house, small business owner. He was telling me that for the first 3 years he didn't break profit, he didn't break even. He was losing a lot of money, but now he's one of the more popular spots in that city. So I think you got to give it time. Obviously, NCAA women's in the tournament and everything about that sport is much bigger, so it's, the time is a little bit more expanded. But I think as a business person, you got to look, hey, we're going to see some losses early on, but hopefully in the long run we see that revenue come in.
I look over at you. You're looking and talking about that growing business. So what are you going to do before we have to say enough's enough? I've spent enough money before we leave this table.
No, well, I'm just going to implement more. I mean, start watching the women's sports more the way it should be watched, and start promote like it should be promoted the way the men's sport is promoted. That way it keeps growing and developing the way society can enjoy it.
Well, it's an interesting topic, and it's going to be one that's not going to go away easily. And Corey already brought up a topic that should come to this table that could take another 2 hours. Should we pay athletes? And then people are going to say, wait a minute, we don't have the money, you want to pay collegiate athletes? That's going to be another topic here.
And if you don't like my opinion on this, you're definitely not going to like my opinion on that one.
And he's got opinions on everything because he'll show up for that one too. Well, it's been another great night here on Friday Night Mics, guys. I mean, we've got thousands of topics to talk about. Don't forget, on sportsnetusa.net, the Michelle Carew Classic is right around the corner, talking about young athletes and where they're going to head for, and talk about a program that needs to be supported. That's softball in general.
April 6th.
April 6th here on sportsnetusa.net. Guys, we're going to be back again next week. Ryan Osborn should be coming back from his journey up north and back, so we'll see Ryan sitting at the table. It's always great to have Corey Neyland here at the table, and of course youth on both sides of me. Well, you guys keep me grounded and give me at least some feeling that there might be success in the future. I'm not sure I'm going to be around for it. For our great hostess, Gabby Neyland, her nice husband, Title IX, sitting to the left. Thanks for getting up well, you take naps, and that's why you're up now here late at night here on sportsnetusa.net. For Noah, for Hector, for Ryan, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching another wonderful night here on Friday Night Mics on sportsnetusa.net.